I see, men of Athens, our affairs are in great perplexity and confusion, not only because many interests have been sacrificed, and it is useless to make fine speeches about them, but because, for preserving what remains, you cannot agree upon any single expedient, some holding one opinion and some another. Besides, perplexing and difficult as deliberation of itself is, you, Athenians, have rendered it far more so. For other men usually hold counsel before action. You hold it after, the result of which during all the time of my remembrance has been that the censure of your errors gets repute and credit as a good speaker, while your interests and objects of deliberation are lost. Yet, even under these circumstances, I believe, and I have risen with the persuasion, that if you will desist from wrangling and tumult, and listen, as becomes men on a political consultation of such importance, I shall be able to suggest and advise measures by which our affairs may be improved and our losses retrieved. Well as I know, Athenians, that to talk before you of oneself and one's own counsels is a successful artifice with unscrupulous men. I think it so vulgar and offensive that I shrink from it even in the case of necessity. However, I think you will better appreciate what I shall say now by calling to mind the little that I said on former occasions. For example, Athenians, when they were advising you in the troubles of the Boa to assist Plutarch and undertake a discreditable and expensive war. I, and I alone, stood forward to oppose it, and was nearly torn to pieces by the men who, for petty lucre, have seduced you into many grievous errors. A short time later, when you incurred disgrace and suffered what no mortals ever did from parties whom they assisted, you all acknowledged the worthlessness of their counsels who misled you, and the soundness of mine. Again, Athenians, when I saw that Neoptolemus, the actor, privileged under colour of his profession, was doing serious mischief to the state, managing and directing things at Athens on Philip's behalf, I came and informed you, not from any private enmity or malice, as subsequent occurrences have shown, and herein I shall not blame the advocates of Neoptolemus, for there were none but yourselves. For had you been seeing a tragedy in the temple of Bacchus, instead of it being a debate on the public weal and safety, you could not have heard him with more partiality, or me with more intolerance. And I suppose you all now understand that he made his journey to the enemy in order, as he said, to get the debts there owing to him, and defray thereout his public charges at home. And after urging this argument, that it was hard to reproach men who brought over their effects from abroad, as soon as he obtained security through the peace, he converted it into money, all the real estate which he possessed here, and has gone off with it to Philip. Thus, two of my warnings, justly and rightfully pronounced in accordance with the truth, testify in my favour as a counsellor. The third, men of Athens, I will mention this one only, and straight proceed to the subject of my address. when we ambassadors, after receiving the oath on the peace, had returned, and certain men were promising that Thespia and Plataea would be repeopled, that Philip, if he got the mastery, would save the Phocians, and disperse the population of Thebes, that Oropus would be yours, and Euboea given as compensation for Amphipolis, with more of the like hopes and delusions which led you on against policy, equity, and honour to abandon the Phocians. You will find I neither aided in any of these deceits, nor held my tongue. I warned you, as you surely remember, that I knew not of these things, nor expected them, and deemed it all idle gossip. These instances, wherein I have shown greater foresight than others, I mention not by way of boast, nor ascribe, Athenians, to any sagacity of my own, nor will I pretend to discover or discern the future from any but two causes, which I will state. First, men of Athens, through good fortune, which I observe beats all the craft and cleverness of men. Secondly, because I judge and estimate things disinterestedly, and no one can show that any lucre is attached to my politics or my speeches. Therefore, whatever be your true policy, as indicated by the circumstances, I have a correct view of it. But when you put money on one side as in a balance, it carries away and pulls down the judgment with it, and he that does so can no longer reason upon anything justly or soundly. The first thing which I maintain to be necessary is this: whether you seek to obtain allies or contribution, or aught else for the state, do it without disturbing the present peace. Not that it is very glorious or worthy of you, but whatever be its character, it had better suited our interests never to have made peace than to break it ourselves. For we have thrown away many advantages, which would have rendered the war then safer and easier for us than it can be now. Secondly, Athenians, we must take care that these people assembled and calling themselves Amphictyons are not by us necessitated, or furnished with a plea to make a common war against us. I grant, if we renewed the war with Philip on account of Amphipolis, or any such private quarrel, in which Thessalians, Argives, and Thebans are not concerned, none of them would join in it. And least of all hear me before you cry out, the Thebans. Not that they are kindly disposed to us, or will not gratify Philip, but they see clearly, stupid as one may think them, that if they had a war with you, the hardship would all be theirs, while another sat waiting for the advantages. Therefore, they would not throw themselves into it, unless the ground and origin of the war were common. So if we again went to war with the Thebans for Oropus, or any private cause, I should fear no disaster, because our respective auxiliaries would assist us or them, if either country were invaded, but would join with neither in aggression. Such is the spirit of alliances that are worth regard, and so the thing naturally is. People are not friendly either to us or the Thebans, to the extent of equally desiring our safety and our predominance. Safe they would all have us for their own sakes. Dominant, so as to become their masters, they would not have either of us. What then, say I, is the danger? What to be guarded against, lest in the coming war there be found a common plea, a common grievance for all? If Argives and Messenians and Megalopolitans and some of the Peloponnesians who are in league with them are hostile to us on account of our negotiating with the Spartans and seeming to take up some of their enterprises, if the Thebans are, as they say, our enemies, and will be more so because we harbour their exiles and in every way manifest our aversion to them. The Salians, again, because we harbour the Phocian exiles, and Philip, because we oppose his admission to the Amphictyonic body. I fear that, each incensed on a private quarrel, they will combine to bring war upon you, setting up the decrees of Amphictyons, and be drawn on, beyond what their single interests require, to battle it with us, as they did with the Phocians. For you are surely aware that now the Theban and Philip and the Thessalians have cooperated without having each exactly the same views. For example, the Thebans could not hinder Philip from advancing and occupying the passes, nor yet from coming last and having the credit of their labours. True, in respect of territorial acquisition, something has been done for them, but in regard to honour and reputation, they have fared wretchedly, since had Philip not stepped in, they would, it seems, have got nothing. This was not agreeable to them, but having the wish without the power to obtain Orchomenos and Coronea, they submitted to it all. But Philip, you know, some persons venture to say that he would not have given Orchomenos and Coronea to the Thebans, but was compelled to do so. I wish them joy of their opinion, but thus far I believe that he cared not so much about that business as he desired to occupy the passes, and have the glory of the war as being determined by his agency and the direction of the Pythian games. Such were the objects of his ambition. The Thessalians wished not either Philip or Thebes to be aggrandized, since in both they saw danger to themselves, but sought to obtain these two advantages, the synod at Thermopylae and the privileges at Delphi, for which objects they aided the confederacy. Thus you will find that each party has been led into many acts unwillingly, and against this danger, being such as I describe, you must take precautions. Must we then do as we are bidden, for fear of the consequences? And do you recommend this? Far from it. I advise you so to act, as not to compromise your dignity, to avoid war, to prove yourselves right-thinking, just-speaking men, with those who think we should boldly suffer anything, and do not foresee the war. I would reason thus: we permit the Thebans to have Oropus, and if one asked us why and required a true answer, we should say, to avoid war. And to Philip now we have ceded Amphipolis by treaty, and allow the Cardians to be accepted from the other people of Chersonese, and the Carian to seize the islands of Chios, Kos, and Rhodes, and the Byzantines to detain our vessels, evidently because we think the tranquillity of peace more beneficial than strife and contest about such questions. It were folly then, and utter absurdity, after dealing thus with each party singly on matters of vital moment to ourselves, to battle now with them all for a shadow at Delphi.